Hello students, welcome to Sridhar Jalapati Aptitude Classes, an initiative of Triumphant Training Solutions. In this video, I'm going to explain you a topic called data sufficiency, one of the important topics in competitive exams. In most of the competitive exams, you can expect 3 to 5 questions from this topic, be it higher education entrance exams like GRE, GATE, CAT, or maybe banking industry recruitment exams, IT recruitment exams, PSUs. In most of the competitive exams, this topic has a very good weightage. We will see what is this topic in this video and how to answer those questions. Before I proceed further, if you are here for the first time, do subscribe to my channel. And after watching the video, if you like my explanation, do not forget to like the video and share this with as many friends as you can. Let us start. Why this data sufficiency topic is so important in exams? First of all, I would like to tell you here that this is not actually a topic. This is not a topic like any other topic, time and work, time and distance, percentages, or any other topic in aptitude. It is not a topic actually. You need to understand that the way of asking the questions in a different manner is data sufficiency. For example, normally in aptitude, what is the way of asking the questions? A question followed by options, maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or A, B, C, D, 4 to 5 options will be given. What do? We solve the question first. After that, after getting the answer, we pick up the correct option which is there in the answer, which is the correct option. So a question followed by options, we normally pick up the correct option for the answer. That is the general way of asking aptitude questions. But in data sufficiency, it's not question followed by options. You don't have to pick up the correct answer. It is all about a question followed by some data, one or two statements. Normally you will give in with two statements. When a question is followed by two statements, you need to find out which of the data provided is sufficient to answer the question. So as the name suggests, checking the sufficiency of the data is called data sufficiency. You just have to check which data provided is sufficient to answer the question. So you just have to learn how to approach the question. That's it. You don't have to learn anything new here. You don't have to learn anything new. Whatever you have learned by learning all the topics in aptitude, you can apply that. But one important thing is here, though this is not a topic, the way of asking the questions in a different manner, but you can expect questions from all the topics in data sufficiency. You can expect questions from all the topics. So therefore, to answer data sufficiency questions, you must have some idea about all the topics, both quantitative as well as logical reasoning, both quantitative ability as well as logical reasoning, because any topic question can be asked in data sufficiency form. And without the basic knowledge of the topic, one cannot answer data sufficiency questions. And let me tell you, the topic appears to be easy, but at the same time, very sensitive. That means there is a lot of chance of making errors here. Confidently, you pick up one answer, but at the end of the day, you may see a different one as the correct answer. So therefore, the topic is easy, but at the same time, you need to be very careful in answering the questions. So why wait then? Let's start. So initially, I'll explain what is data sufficiency with a few examples. Once you understand how to approach the questions, what is the pattern of the questions, then we will answer some questions. So in this video, I'm explaining few questions to understand what is it, and then we're going to answer some previous exam questions as well. Normally in data sufficiency, you will begin with directions. You don't have to by heart these at home. Whatever the directions are given in the exam, we have to follow. You will be given with these directions. For example, here a question is followed by two statements. To answer this question, which of the data provided is sufficient? For example, if statement 1 alone is sufficient, then mark your answer as option 1. If statement 2 alone is sufficient, select your answer as option 2. If question can be answered by using either of them alone, then mark your answer as option 3. If question can be answered by using both 1 and 2 together, then mark your answer as option 5. If question cannot be answered using both 1 and 2 together also, then option 4. First of all, let us try to understand what are these options. 1 alone, but 2 alone is not sufficient. That means if the question can answer only using 1, with the 2 alone, if you cannot answer, then mark your answer as 1. If question can be answered with 2 alone, without the help of 1 alone, then the question can be answered, then the answer should be option 2. If the question can be answered by either of the statement alone, and in the sense the answer can be found using 1 alone and 2 alone without combining them, that is called either of the statement alone. Whereas if the question cannot be answered using both together also, even after combining 1 and 2, if you are unable to find the answer, then option 4. Here, if the question can be answered using both 1 and 2 together and individually the statements are not sufficient, then option 5. So you need to understand these directions first, and then you can select your answer. Okay, here is the first question. Who among three friends ABC, among three friends ABC, who is the tallest? That is the question. First statement, A is taller than B. So from the first statement, when A is taller than B, we know that A is taller than B, but to say whether A is tallest or not, I should know about C also. So we don't have any information about C in first statement. Therefore, 1 alone is not sufficient. Second, A is taller than C. When A is taller than C, to say A is tallest, I need to know about B also. You cannot say it is already given in 1. First of all, you have to analyze the two statements separately. When you are analyzing 1 alone, you should not involve 2. When you are analyzing 2 alone, you should not involve 1. So in the first statement, A is taller than B, but we do not know about C. In the second statement, A is taller than C, but we do not know about B. So 1 alone is not giving answer, 2 alone is not giving. When individually you're not getting the answer, then next step is combine them. So when I combine, A is taller than B, A is taller than C. So obviously A is the tallest. But here question is not who is the tallest actually. We don't have to find out who is tallest actually, whether we can find or not. Yes, we are able to find, we got the answer. How did you get the answer? By using both 1 and 2 together. So therefore option 5 is the answer. Both together are sufficient to answer the question, right? As I said, appears to be simple, but yes, they are very sensitive. Next, let's move to the second example. Again, same. Among three friends ABC, who is the tallest? Who is the tallest? First, A is shorter than B. If A is shorter than B, then obviously B is taller than A, but I cannot say B is tallest because I do not know anything about C. In the first statement, he has not commented anything about C, right? So therefore 1 alone is not sufficient. Next to 2, A is shorter than C. When A is shorter than C, obviously C is taller than A, but to say C is tallest, I should know about B also, which is not given. So in the statement, in the second statement, we don't have any information about B. So in the first statement, we have no information about C. In the second statement, we have no information about B. So therefore, individually, they are not sufficient to answer. So what is the next step? Combine. On combining, B is taller than A, C is taller than A. So that means obviously A is shortest. A is shortest and tallest is between B and C. Who is that? We do not know. One between B and C is tallest, but we don't have enough information to say who is tallest. Therefore, answer using both 1 and 2 together also, we are not getting the answer. So answer option 4. Together also not sufficient. We need additional information to answer. Is this clear? Why together also not sufficient? By combining both the statements, we came to know that A is shortest, but we are asked to find who is the tallest. So tallest is between B and C. Who is that exactly? We do not know. So answer using both together also we cannot find. Okay, right. Let's move to the next one. What is the value of x? First statement, x square is equal to 4. If x square is equal to 4, x can be plus 2 or minus 2. Because plus 2 square is also 4, minus 2 square also 4. So therefore, we do not know which value we can take. Therefore, statement 1 alone is not sufficient because we are getting multiple values. There are two values which satisfy the equation and you are not in a position to decide which one. Therefore, answer is again 1 alone is not sufficient. Next, if x cube has to be 8, x must be 2. There is no other number satisfies and minus 2 doesn't satisfy. So if x cube has to be 8, x must be 2. Therefore, from second statement, I got the answer. Therefore, answer 2 alone is sufficient. Therefore, option 2 is the answer. Here, most of the students think either of the statement is either alone is sufficient, but unfortunately, 1 is not sufficient because from 1, we are getting two values, plus value as well as minus value. So therefore, it is very clear that from a statement, you should be in a position to get unique solution. If any statement is leading to multiple solutions, we treat it as not sufficient, data not sufficient. So here answer second, 2 alone is sufficient to find x value. So I hope you understood how to approach the answers. Now let us answer some questions. Right? Yeah. Here is the first question. So while watching the video, if you want to try any question, first you can pause the video, and then after getting your answer, you can continue watching the video to check your answer is correct or not. Here is the first question. Who is tallest among A, B, C, D? First statement, A is taller than B, A is taller than B, and C is taller than D. So obviously, if A is taller than B and C is taller than D, to find who is the tallest among A, B, C, D, we don't have any connection between these two. We don't have any common person between the two statements. Yes, A is taller than B, but C is is taller than D, but we do not know who is tallest among these. So therefore, one alone is not sufficient because there is no connection between A, B, and C, D. So one alone is not sufficient. Second, D is not taller than B. If D is not taller than B, just from this statement, can you say who is tallest? So 2 alone is also not sufficient. 1 alone is not sufficient, 2 alone is not sufficient. Next, what you have to do? Combine. When individually the statements are not sufficient, next you have to combine. So on combining, I know A is taller than B from the first statement, C is taller than D from the second statement, and he says D is not taller than B. If D is not taller than B, in what way that will give you the who is tallest here? See, if D is not taller than B, in the sense B is taller than D. Let us assume B is taller than D. So A is taller than B, C is taller than D, B is taller than D. So from this, in any way, can we say who is tallest? No. So even after combining 1 and 2, we are unable to find who is the tallest. Therefore, answer option 4. Both together also not sufficient to find who is the tallest. Okay. Right. Next one. How much weight did Ravi gain during the month of January? How much weight did Ravi gain during the month of January? First statement, Ravi gained 10% weight during the month of December, and his weight on 31st December was 60 kg. His weight on 31st December was 60 kg. By the way, you're asked to find how much weight in the sense quantity, not percentage. You're asked to find the quantity, how many kgs he gained in the month of January. But this information is all about December. He gained 10% weight in the month of December, and by the end of the December, he was 60 kg. So from this statement, you can find how much weight he gained in December, but you're asked to find how much weight he gained in January. So from first alone, you will get the weight he gained in December, but not in January. So 1 alone is not sufficient. Second, Ravi gained 10% weight during the month of January, and his weight on 31st January was 66 kg. That means, let us assume in the beginning of January he was X kg. He gained 10% of it, and now it has become 66. So X plus 10% of X is nothing but 0.X, which is equal to 66. So from this 1.1, X is equal to 66. From this X is equal to 66 by 1.1, that is 660 by 11, which is 60. Right? So that means he was 60 in the beginning of the month. He gained 10%, which is 6 kg. So therefore, 2 alone is sufficient to answer the question. We are able to find. By the way, let me tell you, since this is second question, I told you all this calculation, but actually you don't even have to execute all this. The moment you came to know that yes, you are able to find this statement, you don't have to find how much it is. Why do you want here? Whether you gained 6 kg or 7 kg or 8 kg, is it there in the options? No. You just have to find whether we are able to answer the question or not. How much it is exactly, we don't want. All this, do you tell me really is this calculation required? No. Second statement clearly gives us how much weight he gained in the month of January from this information. So without calculation, we can say that second alone is sufficient to answer. Therefore, answer option 2, 2 alone is sufficient. Yes or no? So from this example, from this question, I just want to tell you, in most of the cases, you don't even have to calculate clearly. You don't even have to find the solution exactly. If you are just in a position to decide, yes, you are going to get it, that is enough. But at the same time, sometimes that is a problem as well, because sometimes if you don't solve, now sometimes there is a chance of getting plus or minus. Suppose if you get a quadratic equation, let's say x square is equal to 25, you will get plus or minus. So when you are going to get two values, we treat it as data insufficient. But again, even if you get plus or minus, you need to consider the situation, whether the situation allows minus or not. For example, in this question, even if you get plus or minus, since it is weight, weight cannot be minus, you can ignore the value of minus. But suppose if it is not weight, let's say if it is simply the value of x, if it is simply value of x can be minus as well. So though you are getting plus or minus, you need to see, consider the situation, whether the situation allows plus values or not, minus values or not. Accordingly, you need to answer. Okay. By the way, for this question, answer 2 alone sufficient. From the second statement, we can find how much weight Ravi gained in the month of January. Right. Third question. Who is more efficient between B and C? Again, as I told you, while watching this video, anytime if you want to try the question, you can pause the video. Who is more efficient between B and C? First statement, A and B can complete X units of work in 12 days. A, B together can complete the work in 12 days. From this, can you find who is efficient between B and C? First of all, do we have any information about C? C here? No, one alone is not sufficient. Second, A and C can complete the work in 18 days. First of all, in this, do we have B? No. In first statement, we don't have any information about C. In the second statement, we don't have any information about B. So individually, the statements are not sufficient. When individually they're not sufficient, what is the next statement? Combine. So if I combine AB together 12 days, AC together 18 days, then what is AB together 1 day work? 1 by 12. What is BC together 1 day work? 1 by 18. So if I subtract, don't you think BB get cancelled? Sorry, AC, right? Sorry, second statement AB, AC. So when I subtract AA get cancelled, you'll get B minus C as 1 by 12 minus 1 by 18, LCM 36, 3 minus 2, 1 by 36. B minus C, 1 by 36 is nothing but the work done by B is 1 by 36 more than the work done by C. Or from this, can I write B is equal to 1 by 36 plus C? B is equal to 1 by 36 plus C is nothing but B does 1/36th work more than what C does. So from this, don't you think B is more efficient? Yes or no? Work done by B is 1 by 36 more than C. So B is more efficient. So you're asked to find who is more efficient, B, and that you are able to find using both 1 and 2 together. So therefore answer, both 1 and 2 together will give you the answer. That is option 5 is the answer. By combining both the statements on subtraction, I got B minus C value, which is 1 by 36. That means B does 1 by 36 work more than C. Therefore, B is more efficient. Okay. Yes. Next question. Find the area of the square. If you want to try the question, pause the video. Here is the solution. The numerical value of the perimeter of the square is 1/5 of the numerical value of area of the square. The numerical value of the perimeter. By the way, let the square be with side S. Then what is perimeter? 4S. That is 1/5 of the numerical value of the area of the square. What is area of the square? Side square. So from this SS get cancelled, we'll get S is equal to 20. That means side is 20. Then you're asked to find area of the square. So area is side square, which is 400. So you are able to find that from first statement alone. From one, we got the area, because he said perimeter is 1/5 of the square area. So from that simplification, we got side of the square as 20. When side is 20, area you can find. So one alone is giving you the area. Similarly, let us check the 2. The diagonal of the square is 8 centimeter. So if the diagonal is 8 centimeter, by the way, we all know in a square, length of the diagonal is, root 2 times the side. Because if you apply Pythagoras theorem, as these two are equal sides, if you apply Pythagoras theorem, hypotenuse square is square side square plus side square. So diagonal is root 2s. So we are given with the diagonal as root 2s. From this, you can find s value as 8 by root 2, whatever it is. So once you know the side, you can find the area as a side square. So you can find, as we know side, so you can find the area value. Whatever it is, we are least bothered about the number, but we are able to find the area from the second statement also. So answer, 1 alone is giving you the area, 2 alone is also giving you the area. Therefore answer, either of the statements alone is sufficient to answer. That is option 3. From the first statement, I am able to find the area. From the second statement, I am able to find the area. But again, here some students may get a confusion here. Do we have to get the same answer using either of them? No. I may get a different area using this statement and a different area using this statement. It's not guaranteed. It's not necessary that you have to get the same answer using both the statements or same answer in either of the statements. No. This statement is helping you to find the area, which is one particular value. This statement is also helping you to find the area. That area may not be the same what you got in the second. Okay, so answer either of the statements alone sufficient. Let's move to the next question. Here is the question. There are 6 persons A, B, C, D, E, F sitting around a table. 6 persons A, B, C, D, E, F. And now you are asked to find who is to the immediate right of F. Who is to the immediate right of F? E. Who is to the immediate right of E? So to answer this question, which of the statements is sufficient? First one, only C is sitting between A and E. So from this statement, if only C is sitting between A and B, the situation can be A here, E here, C, or I can also consider like this, 6 friends, right? A here, C here. Let me consider in the same manner so that you will understand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So first statement, only C is sitting between A and B. If A is here, E is here, C sits. I can also take as E here, A here, C sits here. Both are possibilities. If C has to be between A and B, C can be to the left of A can be to the left of C, and E can be to the right of C. Similarly, E can be to the left of C and A can be to the right of. Both ways are possible. So therefore, from this, you cannot find out who is to the immediate right of E. So one alone is not sufficient. Okay. Second, A is to the immediate left of F. Just because of this statement, A is to the immediate left of F, can you find who is to the immediate right of E? No. Because in the second statement, we don't have enough information to find who is to. First of all, in the second statement, there is no E at all. It is between A and F. It's between A and F. We don't have any information about E. So therefore, 2 alone is also not sufficient to answer. So now let us combine. If I combine, C has to be between A and E, and A is to the immediate left of F. Then can this arrangement be possible? If I take this, here, according to the second statement, A should be to the immediate left of F. But here A is immediate left of C. So therefore, this arrangement is not possible, whereas this arrangement is possible, because if A is here, F can be here, F can be here, and A is to the immediate left of F, and C is between A and E. Now you can find who is to the right of E. Who is to the right of E? Obviously C. Obviously C. Right? So therefore, here answer both together sufficient. Both together sufficient to answer the question. Therefore, answer option 5. Both together are sufficient. From together, if there is only one arrangement which satisfies both conditions, that is this arrangement. So from this, we can find who is to the right of E, which is C. Okay, little tricky question. Yes. Right, next question. Question number 6. What is the value of A in the number 7823A4? There is a variable A. You are asked to find the value of A. If you want to try the question, you can pause the video. First one, the number is divisible by 3. How do you say number is divisible by 3? If the sum of the digits in the number is divisible by 3, then the number is divisible by 3. What is sum of the digits? 7 plus 8, 15, plus 2, 17, plus 3, 20, plus 4, 24, plus A. What could be the value of A so that the total sum is divisible by 3? A can be 0, 3, 6. So 3 values are possible for A. Therefore, among the 3, you cannot find which of them. Therefore, answer 1 alone is not sufficient, because from the first statement, I got 3 possible values for A. You cannot say which of them is A. So let us move to the second. Now this number is divisible by 4. When do you say the number is divisible by 4? If the last 2 digits, that is A4, is divisible by 4, then the entire number is divisible by 4. So if A4 has to be divisible by 4, what could be the value of A? 0, 2, 4, 6, 8. Because 0, 4 is divisible by 4. 24 is divisible by 4, 64 is divisible by 4, 84. So again, I got multiple values for A. So 2 alone is also not sufficient. From 1 alone, multiple values. From 2 alone, multiple values. Now let me combine both. If the number has to be divided by both 3 as well as 4, if I combine both, if the number has to be divided by 3, these are the possible values for A. If the number has to be divided by 4, these are the possible values for A. If I combine both, then still I got multiple values for A, which is 0 as well as 6. 0 and 6. That means if A is 0, it satisfies both conditions. If A is 6, still it satisfies both conditions. So using both 1 and 2 together also, we are getting multiple values, that is 0 as well as 6. So still I am not able to find what is A. Therefore answer both 1 and 2 together also not sufficient. That is option 4 is the answer. Together also not sufficient. Clear? Because even on individually each statement giving multiple values, even on combining also we got multiple values for A. Very good question, right? Okay. Let's move to the next one. Here is question number 7. What is the value of x in the number 9895432x2? Right? Again, if you want to try, you can pause the video. Here is the solution. First statement. The number is divisible by 3. As just now I told you, if the number has to be divisible by 3, sum of the digits. Sum of the digits 8 plus 9, 17, 22, 26, 29, 31 plus x. If 31 plus x has to be divisible by 3, x can be 2, 5, 8. So as x can take 3 different values, you cannot find which of them. So therefore again statement 1 only is not sufficient because it is leading to multiple values. Second, number is divisible by 4. If this number has to be divisible by 4, last 2 digits, that is x2 has to be divisible by 4. So if x2 has to be divisible by 4, what are the values for x? 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. Again, second statement is also leading to multiple values. If the number has to be divisible by 4, x can take these many values. Among these, we do not know which is. So 2 alone is also not sufficient. When 1 alone is not sufficient, 2 alone is not sufficient. Next thing is you have to combine. So if I combine them, here x can take 2, 5, 8, here x can take 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. So how many common values? Only one common value. That means if I take x is equal to 5, both conditions get satisfied. That means if I take x is equal to 5, the number is divisible by 3 as well, number is divisible by 4. So therefore, using both 1 and 2 together, we are getting only one unique value here. Therefore, answer both 1 and 2 together sufficient to answer. Therefore, answer option 5. Option 5, both 1 and 2 together sufficient. In the last question, even after combining, we got 2 values. But here, after combining both statements, we got only one value. So that is the answer. Let's move to the next one. How many students read English in a class of 75? Students, how many students read English in a class of 75 students? If every student reads either English or Hindi, if every student reads either English or Hindi, then in the class of 75, how many read English? First statement. Now, this is something from Venn diagrams concept. So we write, I think you must be knowing some basic concept about Venn diagrams. That's what I told you. To answer data sufficiency, you should know something or the other about every topic. So 2 variables, English, Hindi. So he says 47 students read Hindi. Let this be English, let this be Hindi. 47 students read Hindi. From the first statement, we know that only 47 students read Hindi. But you're asked to find how many students read English. So from this statement, is there any chance of finding how many students read English? No, one only is not sufficient. Right? Second, 28 students read only English. So second statement is saying out of the 75 students, only English 28. But to find how many read English, I should know this region also because this is also part of English. We know only 28 read only English, but we do not know this intersection portion because here also people are there who read English. Therefore, 2 alone is also not giving complete answer. 1 alone is not giving, 2 alone is not giving. When individually you are not getting, what you have to do? Combine. So on combining, let us see what happens. On combining, total 75, English, Hindi. First statement says 48 read Hindi. Second statement says first statement says 47 read Hindi. Second statement says 28 read English. Now in this from this information also, we are unable to find how many read English because we don't have this intersection portion. As long as you do not know this intersection portion, you cannot find how many read English. So using both 1 and 2 together also, we cannot find the answer. Therefore, answer option 4. Both together also will not giving you how many read English in this class of 75. Okay. Right. Let's move to the next question. What is the rate of interest per annum? What is the rate of interest per annum? This question is from interest concept, simple interest, compound interest. First statement, the amount doubles itself in 4 years under simple interest. The amount doubles itself in 4 years under simple interest. That means P rupees becomes 2P under simple interest. That means it has increased by 100% in 4 years. So if it has increased by 100% in 4 years, then rate of interest is 25%. You can find the rate of interest. Yes or no? If P rupees has become 2P, then it is increased by 100% in 4 years. So in 4 years to achieve 100% growth, 4 has to be multiplied with 25. 4 into 25 will give you 100%. So rate of interest 25. So that means 1 alone is sufficient to find rate of interest. From the first statement, we are able to find the rate of interest. We got it as 25%, but we don't want how much it is. We are able to find it. Next, second, the difference between SICI for 2 years. We have a formula to find SICI difference. That is difference between SICI for 2 years on the same money at the same rate of interest is P into R by 100 whole square. P into R by 100 whole square. So the difference is given as 250. Principal is given as 5,000. So on simplifying, don't try to simplify. On simplifying, definitely you are going to get R value. Yes or no? See, even if you get plus or minus, rate of interest can't be negative. So therefore, if you want, you can solve, but you don't need to. So from the second statement also, we are getting R value. So 1 alone is giving, 2 alone is giving. By the way, to answer this question, you must know something about SICI, because without knowing this formula, it is not easy to answer this question. Right? So therefore, answer either of the statements alone sufficient to answer the question, that is option 3. 1 alone is giving you rate of interest, 2 alone is giving you rate of interest. Right? Yes. Next question. Can Samuel buy 25 apples with rupees 300? Can Samuel buy 25 apples with rupees 300? First statement, the number of apples for 1 kilogram varies from 3 to 5. Here in the question, we are given that he has 300 rupees. We are asked to find whether with that 300 he can buy 25 apples or not. If the number of apples for 1 kilogram varies 3 to 5 is the first statement, that's okay. Per kilogram he may get 3 to 5, but for 300 rupees, how many kgs he can get? We do not know. In the first statement, we are just given that per kilo he can get 3 to 5. But with the money that what he has, how many kgs he can get? We do not know. So therefore, 1 alone is not sufficient. Second, the price of 1 kg of apples is 75. If 1 kg is 75, for 300 rupees, obviously he can get 300 by 75, that is 4 kgs. He can get 4 kgs, but that 4 kgs gives you 25 apples or not, we do not know. From the second statement, we are able to find that he can buy 4 kgs. But that 4 kgs consists 25 apples or not, we do not know. So second alone also not sufficient. 1 alone is not sufficient, 2 alone is not sufficient. Because in 1 alone, we do not know how many kgs he can get. In 2 alone, we know how many kgs he can get, but per kg how many we do not know. So when you don't get individually, what is the next step? Combine. So on combining, from the second statement 4 kgs, and from the first statement per kg 3 to 5. So if the number of apples for per kg is 3 to 5, then for 4 kgs he can get 12 to 15. 4 into 3 12, 4 into 5 20, sorry, 12 to 20. He can get the apples from 12 to 20. That means he can get a minimum of 12, a maximum of 20. Can he get 25? No, he cannot get 25. Then what is the answer? So most of the students here think that answer is data not sufficient. No. We are asked to find, can he buy 25 apples? We found the answer by combining 1 and 2 that he cannot buy 25 apples. So therefore answer both together sufficient. Both together sufficient to say that he cannot buy. Right? Here it's not that since he's not able to buy 25 apples, data is not sufficient. No. He's not able to buy apples, so we are able to answer. That's why data sufficient. From both the statements together, we have concluded that he can get a minimum of 20, a minimum of 12, a maximum of 20. So therefore he cannot get 25 apples. So as the question is, can he get 25 apples? No, he cannot. So since we are able to answer by using both 1 and 2 together, so answer together statement sufficient. Okay, right. And here is the last question from this data sufficiency topic. I hope by watching this video completely, you are gaining some confidence about this topic to attempt the questions. Now here is the last one. If the area of the triangular region ABC is 25 square centimeter, what is the perimeter of the triangle ABC? Very tricky question. I suggest you to pause the video and try before you listen to my solution straight away. Okay, here is the solution. We are already given with the area of the triangle in this question itself, but we do not know which type of triangle it is. He said simply the triangle is ABC. Now, first statement. By the way, we are asked to find perimeter. When can you find perimeter? Only when you know three sides. The perimeter of a triangle can be found only when you know three sides, because perimeter is nothing but sum of the three sides. First statement. Length of one side of triangle is 5 root 2. In the triangle ABC, if you know one side as 5 root 2 and area as 25 centimeter square, can you find the other two sides B as well as C? You cannot, because we do not know what type of triangle it is, right? If it is equilateral triangle, formula to find area root 3 by 4 side square. If it is right angle triangle, half into base into height. If it is scalene triangle, under root S into S minus A into S minus B into S minus C, where S is semi perimeter, that is A plus B plus C by 2. Among these many formula, which one we have to apply to find the area, unless you know what is the type of the triangle? So therefore, from the first statement, if you know one side and area, you cannot find other two sides. So when you cannot find other two sides, you cannot find the perimeter. So therefore, one alone is not sufficient. Next, second, ABC is a right isosceles triangle. Now listen to this carefully. What do you mean by right isosceles triangle? Right angle triangle as well as isosceles. Right angle as well as isosceles. A, B, C, right angle. What do you mean by isosceles? Two sides are equal. In a right angle triangle, which two sides can be equal? Only perpendicular sides. Hypotenuse cannot be equal to any sides. Only AB and BC can be equal here. Only AB and BC can be equal. AC always should be the longest. This cannot be equal to any side. I think that basic point you must be knowing it. Okay. So in this right angle isosceles triangle, if these two are equal, can I assume this as X and this as X? And we already know that area. So as this is right angle triangle, how do you find area? Half into base into height, which is 25. So that is half is base is X, height is also X, which is 25. So from this X square is equal to 50, then X is equal to 5 root 2. So this is 5 root 2. If this is 5 root 2, but then this is also 5 root 2. Then by applying Pythagoras theorem, you will get it as square root of 5 root 2 square, that is 50, plus 5 root 2 square 50, which is square root 100, which is 10. Whatever it is, somehow I came to know I could find all the three sides. Now don't you think I can find the perimeter, which is sum of the three sides? Whatever it is, we are able to find. Now we know first side, second side, third side, and all this we are able to find out using 2 alone. So therefore answer second statement alone is sufficient to find the area of the triangle, a perimeter of the triangle. When you see the question for the first time, you definitely underestimate second statement because it is theory, there is nothing in it. But actually, that simple statement itself is sufficient to answer this question. From the information right isosceles, that is right angle as well as isosceles, and also the area which is given in the question, I found all the three sides. Therefore, I can find the perimeter as well. So answer 2 alone. Okay. So these are some of the questions. I hope you understood my explanation. If you like it, do like the video. Comment below the video if you have any questions, queries. Do not forget to share this with all the needy people and subscribe to my channel for the notifications of the videos which I'm uploading. Thank you so much.